Today we have the honor of welcoming an all-around entertainer to Title Unboxed. He's a genuine fight fan and boxing historian. Many may only know him as Sylvester Stallone's brother, but he's so much more and has an amazing inspirational story to share. We're thrilled to welcome to Title Unboxed, Frank Stallone.
Welcome to Title Unboxed. With more than 40 years of experience in the fight game, our host, Doug Ward, will be covering every corner of the ring as we get comfortable between the ropes. We'll talk with both the lesser knowns and the legends, discuss boxing's rich history and current state of the game. We'll also look at today's latest innovations, equipment breakdowns, and insights you won't uncover anywhere else. Join us now as we take a look inside Title Unboxed.
Hey Frank, thanks for joining us on Title Unboxed.
My pleasure, actually.
Great having you here.
To talk about the great sport, yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I want to discuss today. You know, you came out with a documentary recently called Stallone, Frank that is.
Yes.
And I also saw you on, and I already knew you were a boxing historian, but I saw you post something on Instagram at Justin Fortune's gym,
Yes.
and you were standing next to a big Marciano bag that we had developed.
Right.
It was a prototype,
Right.
and you talked about the history of it, and I mean, that's awesome because most people don't know that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, actually, the original Marciano bag was heavier. I mean,
Yeah,
that thing
300
is
pounds.
like, Jesus. I mean, I tell you, when I hit that thing, that bag is not too bad. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But some of the bags they're making now are too heavy and they're too tight. And I find when I hit them, I'm always hurting my wrists, my elbows, my shoulders. Because when I was fighting, most of the bags were maybe 45 pounds and they were leather. Like I still have my original Toughwear bag. Okay,
Oh, awesome.
leather. And when you'd hit it, you hear it smack. Now these things are so, and it would move, you know?
Yeah.
But now they're so heavy.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the good stuff like Pro, I mean, you know, Title, it's all good stuff. But for some reason, this thing has come in where they're kind of vinylish and they don't really give.
Yeah.
And I think they're more for martial arts, kicking and stuff, because I'll tell you, I'm always messing my hands up.
Yeah, the tie bags are popular. I still like a heavy bag that swings a little bit. You get that movement in there,
leather.
and you get better rhythm.
Yeah. And they don't have to be that heavy. If you look at Jack Dempsey, if you look at all the old films, they were Everlast bags, and they were like 50 pounds at most, 45 pounds. But the thing is, your head weighs 12 pounds. Why do I need a 200-pound bag? Marciano just did that because reading about Charlie Goldman,
Yeah.
you know, Marciano had the arm length of a lightweight. He had 60, 70-inch reach. So he had really short arms, and he was kind of, you know, short for a heavyweight. So his thing was getting in close. So he was so strong. And but if you see, he had wrists. His wrists were huge. He had big meat hook hands.
Big hands, yeah.
Big hands. And so Charlie Goldman had him fighting in close and moving around. So that was his power. I remember when I was boxing, Jersey Joe Walcott was the boxing commissioner. It was classic because, you know,
New Jersey? Was it New Jersey?
Yeah. And I used to talk to him. I said, how hard did he really hit? He goes, well, you saw the film, didn't you? I go, yep. He goes, well, just unbelievably hard.
Wow.
Just some guys have that. Ernie Shavers. Some people have that. George is more of a pounder, Foreman, more of a thutter. Yeah. Ernie and they were just sharp. Joe Louis had that sharp punch and knock you cold, you know.
Well, Walcott was on the end of that that perfectly timed right hand, that famous right hand, that picture you see everywhere.
Well, that was one that Jersey Joe said to me. He goes, so you saw, and he was winning the fight. And the thing is, Jersey Joe Walcott was a tremendous, beautiful boxer to watch. He was winning the fight, but this guy was just a pit bull, Rocky. He was just a strong. But if you see him like narrow shoulders, like 5'9.5",
not a big guy.
No, but he was power. Just, you know what? We were doing the Contender. We went to Brockton, Massachusetts, because we were looking for fighters. So Brockton was the cool place to go because guys came in from Vermont, Rhode Island, all over the place. And I found those the toughest guys of all the cities we hit. I thought Chicago was going to be it or New York. No, there.
Really?
And all of a sudden the guy goes, oh, you want to meet the Massianos? You know, Massey, that last name. I said, sure, man. So his nephews came in and they looked like him.
Really?
Yeah, and they're like primitives. I mean, really nice guys, but heavy boned.
Yeah, they're built
tough.
like the old
I mean,
timers.
Yeah, like thick, big hands, big, and they're really nice guys. So we went out into a club. They're really cool guys, very, very nice, very educated. But you could see with the gene pool, just that peasant, thick bone, heavy, big wrists, big hands. And, listen, I've always believed fighters are born. I mean, they have the makeup for it. I mean, it's like me being a musician or a singer. You can't teach someone to sing. You can maybe embellish and get better, but you just can't teach someone to sing. It's like, fighters, I guess it's the twitch muscle, it's the mentality, and also of the era, if you're talking about old time fighters, like I've interviewed fighters, in the 70s that fought in 1909, 1910. Wow. I interviewed Joe Burrell, who fought Harry Greb. He actually beat Harry Greb. He fought like 300 and some fights. And
incredible.
Yeah. And I talked to him. I said, what was it? He says, well, you know what? Mouth guards were illegal. So no one wore mouth guards then. It wasn't until like the actual mouth guard came in. It was an accident. Ted Kid Lewis, who was the welterweight champion of the world from England, fought Jack Britton, who basically is an unknown fighter. But Jack Britton had 326 pro fights. He's considered, and if you see him when he retired, other than the cauliflower ears, he didn't have a mark on his face. So he was an excellent fighter. So he was fighting Ted Kid Lewis, who again was British. And he said, what the hell's that? And he goes, yeah, it's me gum shield, He goes, and the ref goes, hey, you can't wear that. You're not allowed to wear that. So these guys fought without a mouthpiece.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Until like 1918, 1919. So before then, they used, whatever, lemon, orange peel, piece of cotton. Yeah. But if you look at old fighters, I have a great fighter, George Chipp, who was the middleweight champion. They all had these scars on their lips, and they always say the smashed lips. Because, just if you had a crooked tooth, you get hit to your. Yeah. So they bite their tongue. I mean, so they were kind of Cro-Magnon, Yeah.
You mentioned your boxing beginning. What was your amateur career like? Give everybody a little bit of taste of how you got started.
I mean, I lived in Trenton, New Jersey, which is kind of a dump, and I always was fascinated with boxing, and so in those places they had boxing gyms. They were like PAL, Police Athletic League. Sure. And there was Trenton Powell, and then there was Hamilton that was in New Jersey. So I, like everyone else, went in and, and for the first few months got my ass kicked, every day. But the thing was, the hardest thing for me is that I said, man, these guys like whacking that left hook. And that is the hardest punch to learn to throw because it's a natural, right? Yeah. So I remember guy showing me, and I said, I don't know, it's not computing, just like, and he said, so Sammy Goss, who was an Olympic fighter and was also a contender in featherweight. So he would do like little seminars. Now in those days, there was no music in the gym. There was no women in the gym. It was like 85 degrees, wooden floors, just tough, And he would do a thing. He goes, hold your hand right here. And he goes, do this. And all I want you to do is lift your elbow. Yeah. Not this. Just go, pop, like you're pouring a thing of water. And all of a sudden, he'd make us do it for hundreds of times. And then when you think about it, it would just. But his father was a great trainer, Jesse Goss, who trained Ike Williams, who was one of the great lightweights. Yeah. So I started boxing. Now, I kind of was in a dilemma, because I also had my rock band. So my managers were not real excited about me boxing because it's called getting hit in the throat and ending your career, which I didn't think about because, when you're young and full of piss and vinegar, you don't think like that.
No, you're invincible, right?
Right. So I was training. And I was a little older than the guys. I was like 20 something. And most of the guys, a lot of guys at Junior Olympics. So I just fought, they had fights, and then, you would have smokers too. You'd have the AAU fights, the amateur boxing thing. And then they'd have things where the gym would put on fights. We're going to put a fight on Saturday, So people would just walk in, you just beat the shit out of each other, whatever. Didn't win anything. So I think if I put all those together, it was almost like, I think probably 28.
Really? Wow.
28 fights.
That's
And
good.
I never got knocked out.
Yeah.
And when they say, like, when they call a KO, if a guy was in trouble, they stop the fight.
Yeah. The
But
safety
I
first.
fought 3-minute rounds with no headgear. In those days, it was 3-minute rounds, no headgear, and we're using horsehair gloves. The thing is, you would use the other guy's gloves. So by the time they got to me, they were like, it was all skinned back. There was no like horsehair. It's like getting hit with a blackjack. But I always thought the amateur fights were harder than a professional fight in the sense that you don't know who you're fighting most of the time.
Yep.
You just get there. I mean, so I remember I was sitting in the dressing room talking with this guy, black dude from Bridgeport. They were just sitting there talking for like an hour and a half. Really very personable, nice guy. And they said, all right, Stallone, you're up. I said, who am I fighting? He goes, him. I got it. Here we go.
I just built a friendship with this guy.
I just killed myself there. Now, and he was a much more experienced fighter than me. And in the beginning, he hit me straight when we went out. Boom, hit me with 2 bolo punches, which I'd never been hit with.
Yeah.
And he actually hit me from a distance because he was taller than me. So it wasn't like he was up close. It was like he was jabbing, and it hit me right 2 times. I said, well, I'll be a son of a bitch. This guy's got to kick my ass in front of my hometown. So we were fighting, and and you got to gut it out. What are you going to do? Yeah. But man, we were moving, and my best punch, believe it or not, ended up being the left hook, right?
Yeah.
And he hit me, boom, straight right hand. And then I rolled under and I hit him with the left hook. I mean, it was like that Joe Frazier left hook, the one that hit Ali.
Yeah.
Just boom on the chin. And all of a sudden I knew I heard him because when they come back, when they get hit and smile and do like the Ali shuffle going back. Yeah. I said, I'm going to get this dude.
You got through.
He beat me. He beat me. He was a real nice guy, Yeah. But it's not a sport for the faint-hearted at all.
It is not, no.
I tell people, I say, you think it's easy when you jump in there? It's not as easy as it looks.
Yeah. Everything looks easier on TV too.
Oh yeah.
The punches are slower and it's a different dynamic altogether.
But they all hurt. That's one thing. There's different levels of hurt, but when you get hit, it hurts.
Yeah. And you obviously attended a bunch of the big fights. Does one stand out in your memory more than the others that you're like, oh my gosh, this is not going to happen again ever?
Ringside Hagler Hearns. Ringside when Tyson beat Burbick.
Yep. Wow.
Ringside Holmes Cooney, which was a big fight at that time. Of course, they make it a race thing, and it's not because I did a show for those guys. They're like best friends.
Yeah,
it's boxing. They're just making money. But they tried to make, of course, they tried to amp up things. Cooney, Larry didn't give a shit. I mean, they're Jerry, but they made, like $12 million back then.
Yeah, it was the highest grossing heavyweight fight in history at that time.
That's right. A lot of money at that time. And the Hagler Hearns thing, that was really exciting to me because I thought Tommy was going to knock him out because Tommy is big. And I like Marvin. I used to see Marvin fight at the Spectrum in Philly when he was unknown, when he fought like Benny Briscoe, Boogaloo Watts, and Cyclone Hart. So I knew he was a tough guy because he came to Philly and lost to those guys and came back and beat them all in their own town. Yeah. And those were 4 Philly middleweights nobody wanted to fight. You had Willie the Worm Monroe, Bobby Boogaloo Watts, Bad Benny Briscoe, and Cyclone Hart. Yeah. You have 4 killers. They all could punch and fight. And nobody wanted to fight these guys. And I'm really surprised that they didn't get – the only one that ever got like a title shot was Benny Briscoe. But none of those other guys got title shot. And Marvin came in there and he cleaned up. So he was a tough guy.
And Philly's tough. It's tough. They have those sparring wars, the gym wars, and their sparring is hard. And I think that's maybe part of that reason,
Well, that's part of the tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go to the Blue Horizon, it's like a bloodbath. I mean, just tough, but it's that street stuff, man. It's like, that's why when these guys come over from England, right, I'm going to fight. I said, dude, you're going to get your ass tuned up because you got to fight those guys. The brothers in England are a little different than the brothers from Detroit or the Latinos. I mean, you got to fight those guys because that's who you're going to be fighting if you go for a title. So I have found some, Now, some were great, like Joe Calzaghe. He could beat anybody.
Yeah.
But a lot of these guys, you know, I'm not taking any away from the Brits. I mean, because they're tough guys over there. I'm not taking anything away. But you're going to be fighting most likely Black, Hispanic, but now you got this whole thing, iron block countries. I mean,
yeah, sure.
Croatians, and they're tough, man.
Ukraine
Ukraine's, Kazakhstan, and they're really tough dudes, man. They're stout and strong. But the thing is, you just can't stay in one country. That's why a lot of the, fighters from the United Kingdom, the smart ones come over here and fight. You have to.
That's how you create a bigger audience. Although they'll pack stadiums over there, but.
Oh, they sure. Like Justin Fortune goes, Jesus, man, Ryan Garcia knocked, Campbell? He goes, yeah, he's British. Of course, I knew it was a guy.
Yeah.
I said, but he goes, yeah, but they fight a little different style.
They do.
Now, Nigel Benn was a little different when he fought McClellan, which was a tragic fight. But I'm saying, but he fought like kind of an American fighter, Bob Weave, and he was just ultra tough, but Tyson Fury is another thing. No one's going to beat him. He's going to retire undefeated. No one's going to beat him.
I think so. Based on his most recent performance, you mean.
And I say Deontay, I've been watching Deontay train. He's got a new trainer. I said, man, don't sell this cat out. This guy can bang with a right hand. Yeah. If he really gets that left hand working like it should, he hits you, he'll knock Joshua out because Joshua's right there for the right hand. Yeah. Doesn't move his head. So if you're standing there.
That's how he got dropped the first fight.
Huh?
That's how he got dropped the first fight.
Who, Joshua?
Joshua. No, not Joshua. Sorry, Fury.
He did get dropped. And you know what? I honestly, God, didn't think he was going to get up, but he did. He's tough, man.
Yeah.
And he's big and he's strong. And, he's got a lot of guts. And the second fight to go, well, he's 275 ago. Yeah. He's almost 7 feet tall. That's not that heavy. He's 6'9". He's 3 inches under 7 feet. And he's smart. And he's got a boxing IQ. I know his body's got like a bad build, but he's athletic and he can fight and he can that jab and he's got a lot of guts. But I think Deontay, I told people, I said, man, don't sell this guy short. He can hit.
As long as they make those fights, the heavyweight division's somewhat interesting right now.
Yeah. I think Deontay should be carrying about 230. 217, 216 is too light.
It is today. In today's fighters, it is.
I mean, it's too light. But I think he beats Deontay. Yeah. Guys were saying to me, hey, man, do you think Andy Ruiz could beat him? I said, no. Oh, no, Andy's fast. I said, Andy's fast, but Andy's 5'10".
Yeah, he's not a big heavyweight for sure. Yeah.
But the thing is, if you're there for the right hand with Deontay and he nails you solid, you're going. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Listen, Andy Ruiz, he's a very nice guy. I'm very disappointed that he came in. He looked like he was like 300 pounds for the rematch with Joshua. Yeah. I said, dude, I knew it. I told my friends, I said, he's going to lose the fight. They go, what do you mean? I said, you notice he's got all this bling and he just bought a Rolls and new tattoos. He's not taking care of business.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But Joshua didn't even really do much in the fight. He was kind of like, kind of just trying to win.
He didn't commit. He didn't want to happen what did the time before, Yeah.
He didn't commit at all. He just pity patted his way through. He's okay, but he won't fight Fury, and he's supposed to fight Fury, and he's like mucking around a bit.
That'd be a huge fight.
I think Fury will beat his butt. Yeah.
So when you mentioned the band, and you talk a little bit about that in the documentary, and that made you give up fighting. Is that why you decided? Well, I need to really focus on Valentine.
No, a few guys go, why you go pro? I said, you know what, man? First of all, I hated doing road work, but you have to. I hate it. It just wasn't my thing. Yeah. Some people can just run all day. For me, it hurt my ankles. But you had to do it,
Yeah.
I figured, you know what? Why not stay with my strengths? Mm-hmm. You know what? I mean, there's a lot of guys out there who go pro and, and they're walking on their heels now. It's not worth it. I mean, I had a record deal coming out and I was like, everyone wanted to kick Rocky's brother's ass. That was the whole thing.
Yeah, I love that.
Before the movie came out, I was fine. After the movie came out, I go, why you want to beat my ass for? Nah, man, I'm going to beat Rocky's ass. Because they could go in their neighborhood and say, hey, man, you saw Rocky? I beat his brother's ass. And I swear to God, I look at the posters and that's what they would do, like in a movie. Boxing tonight, Rocky's brother.
Oh
And all these dudes coming from out of town and the amateurs go, oh man, yeah, we get a piece of that.
Put a huge target on your back.
Oh, yeah, it'd be like being a cop today, the bullseye. And I said, man, this is gonna get worse as time goes on.
Yeah.
But my own gym, it was fine. But listen, that's competitive sports. People do that stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
He is hey, he's Paul McCartney's son. Let's just beat his ass just for general purposes. Yeah. So that's kind of what happened with that stuff. But look, man, it was all good. I mean, it was fun. I wish I would have really started when I was little, because that would have been so great to, because when I went to military school when I was 12, I got picked on a little bit. It would really been great to like knock dudes out that are 16 years old when you're 12. Yeah, because most guys can't fight at all.
No.
But you see these kids, I see these kids 11, 12 years old, kick the shit out of someone 15.
Yeah.
They can fight.
It's a young man's sport. It is. They're you're best if you start in the 8, 9, 10 range, and
it's Junior Olympics. Yeah.
It all becomes more natural.
Yeah, you're not really getting hurt at that point. It's more like, big gloves and just moving around. But I think it's really good for your head. I mean, if there's so many wonderful success stories about kids that were real troubled, that were, that had, they could have gone a really different way, and boxing saved their lives. A lot of guys say James Abjuda, Mike Tyson saved their lives.
Floyd
Patterson. Yes.
Sonny Liston.
Sonny Liston. I love Sonny Liston, man.
I do too.
I got stories on Sonny because, I did live in Philly, and my father, I don't know if he was a gangster, but I guess if they were, you didn't ask him. But I know he knew everybody. And Sonny Liston was a collector. He collected, Can you imagine him outside your screen door? Hey, man, you open, whoa, with like that Banlon shirt with that pork pie hat.
Intimidating.
Intimidating. Yeah. I mean, if you were one of 27 kids abused, you'd be intimidated too. I heard a story, and this is kind of what is a funny thing. Well, you've seen some of the shows when they talk about Ali and the Phantom Punch, and Don Dunphy goes, you have to have cataracts. I mean, not this. Okay, here's the story that I heard. Sonny Liston was a cop fighter, and when he'd drink or get high, he would get in fights with cops. He liked it, liked to punch them out, right? Yeah. So I heard a story from someone that he was in North Philadelphia, which is a rough section, okay? And he was in a bar, and he wasn't like a giant guy, but he had monstrous hands.
Yep.
Long, like 83-inch reach. Long reach. And he was institutionalized. I mean, he was a thug. So they said he was in this bar, and he went to the phone booth and called the cops and said, there's a fight going on, man. You should get over here. Okay. The cops show up. Now, these are North Philadelphia cops. This is early 60s. This is not like today with cameras. This is when you blackjack your ass, Right. So he came out of the bar and go, yeah, what's up with you, mother? Up there to go, what? And they go, oh, shit, here we go. Yeah. So he gets into it, and they go after him. And he's knocking these cops out left and right. They're hitting them with the nightstick, nothing. No. So finally it took like 7, 8 cops. Now, you're talking about, these are tough cops, and they're hitting them with sap gloves, hitting him with a nightstick, and he's getting up and he's laying these guys out left and right. So it's hard to imagine the anchor punch to knock him out. Yeah. When 9 cops, they finally got him into the wagon after that. And you know what? I knew people that knew him. He was really sweet around kids. He was not, but he was the poor guy was so maligned. I mean, no one shows up after he wins the title in Philly. Yeah. And they treated him kind of bad. I mean, they did. He is what he is. But they said, George Katz, who was his manager, I think at the time, said he was like a little kid around little kids. He loved little kids and stuff like that. So, but look where he's from. Look how he was raised, Terrible. Right.
Yeah. Rough way to grow up, for sure.
But I tell you, I always loved seeing him and Marciano. Boy, that would have been a good one, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That'd be like a Hearns Hagler kind of situation.
Yeah. I mean, you saw
all
that
out
with
war.
Floyd Patterson. Yeah, Floyd, man, didn't. And Floyd could fight, man. Floyd was one of my favorite fighters. For him. But he was a good fighter. And you know what? Got to give him a lot of credit. He was tough, man. Fought Archie Moore. He fought Liston. He fought Ali. I mean, he fought Jimmy Ellis. I mean, he fought Jerry Quarry.
Yeah.
So he was a good fighter. I mean, he had really good technique, and he could punch with that left hook.
Well, he'd come from the Customato school, so.
Yeah, he get hit with that left hook. Yeah. And such a nice guy. And you know what's really funny about it? He was very clear-headed. So it was kind of interesting that he went into, pugilistic dementia land.
Well, I think I've always thought that you're predisposed to it, and boxing doesn't create it, but it can bring it out a little bit more.
Doesn't hurt.
I mean,
I've been around a lot of neurosurgeons. They said, blunt force trauma is not good. I put it this way. You've never seen a boxer leave the ring smarter than when he came in. That's for sure. I mean, but there are some, you're right. There are some that are predisposed. Look at the Quarry brothers, how they both ended up. Yeah. But they also took a lot of punishment. And they were also, Ali took a lot of punishment.
Well, and that whole era was tough, just tough guys. I mean, top 10 contender would be world champion today.
George Chuvalo, he's clear as a bell.
Yeah.
George Chuvalo. Yeah. But Ali, people forget the 3 Frazier fights, the 3 Norton fights, the Ernie Shavers fights, the Frazier fights. I mean, those are wear and tear fights, man.
Yeah. There's a time when it's time to hang it up, and fighters have a hard time deciding when that is.
Too long. He stayed around too long.
Yeah. So I want to get to the documentary now. We've talked a little bit about that. You talked in that, it's called, again, it's Stallone, Frank that is. Yeah. It's the name of it. How did that come about?
Well, which I have to dispel the theory. Everyone thought it was my idea, which it wasn't. Some young filmmakers had done a movie called King of the Underdogs about John Avildsen, who directed Rocky. He was doing something called 40 Years of Rocky. So I met this guy in a club. Of course, we were talking. Of course, I was in, a few of the Rockies.
Sure.
And then we got to know each other. And then one day out of nowhere, he goes, "You know what, man? We should do a documentary on you." I go, "Me?" Okay. I mean, but I've heard so much BS in the 40 plus years I've lived in California. I go,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens with this, right? Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, lo and behold, they said, "Yeah, we're ready to go." I said, "Are you serious?" They go, "Yeah." I said, "Okay." So I went into, let's say, the fictional Rolodex, and I called up everyone I knew.
Yeah.
Said, "They're doing a documentary of my life. You want to do it?" And the first 2 people that were in it were Bruce Buffer and Bas Rutten.
Yeah, that's great.
I remember that. And then all of a sudden I asked my brother, and then I asked Arnold. So once they were on, but the other guys that were on, like Danny Aiello, we would have done it anyway because we were good friends. We did Hudson Hawk together, and Joe Montaigne is a good friend. But at the end of it, I mean, God, when you think of all the people in it, John Oates, Richie Sambora from Bon Jovi, Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses, then even Geraldo Vera, who I beat up on the Howard Stern shows. I mean, so it just, and I wanted it to be, I wanted it to be real. I said, if you think I'm an asshole, just say it, whatever. I was not at any of the interviews at all.
Right.
I said, because I want something honest. And I said, the only thing I asked for, I said, you've got to interview the guys I was in my band with in 1965, my first group, the American Tragedy, because then we can start and then move. Because you can't be here without ever having a past, right? So, and that was really great. I mean, to see some of the guys I hadn't seen in 50 years, and of course, my late mother's in it, and a lot of people are in it. But and that was like really important to me to have that scene that people from the beginning, and it just it just took on a life of its own. We won like 5 film festivals.
Fantastic.
But I was looking at some of the reviews, of course. Oh, well, it sounds like what is a critic anyway? I mean, sounds like a self-promoting thing. And by the way, he's the producer. I wasn't the producer until after the movie was finished. My manager put that in there. He goes, well, you know what? Considering you got all the talent, why not?
Right.
So it wasn't like dispelling the fact that it was my idea to do it and I'm the producer is totally false. It wasn't that way.
Well, it's fantastic. I found it insightful, entertaining. It kind of touches on the background of the music industry.
Yeah.
What the Rocky movies actually did or didn't do for you after the fact, which is somewhat interesting, I think. You mentioned that you lived a tumultuous childhood. You had a tumultuous childhood.
Yeah.
What was that like? And how much did that inspire you to be the person that you are, as far as your perseverance, your motivation, and the things that make up Frank Stallone?
Yeah, I think coming from, like you said, a tumultuous household where there were fights and there were breakups. I mean, at the end of the day, my mother was married 5 times, my father 4, and there were stepbrothers and half sisters and this and all stuff like that. So very confusing for a young child. But here comes the Lord, the intervention of God. Said, okay, we're going to make your life a little easier. So we're going to give you this thing that's going to be easy for you to do, which is music. Yeah. So like I said in the documentary, at 6 years old, I started singing. It was like easy. And remember, I didn't come from an artsy fartsy. My father was a hairdresser. My mother was the receptionist. So it wasn't like I came from like, oh yes, well, Frank's going to go to the Sorbonne. We barely got out of high school, So, and then my brother kind of followed suit later. So I was at 15 years old already playing out with my little group. He was still like in high school getting in trouble, juvenile delinquent type person. So you would never thought he would be who he is today. Right. Even though he did have charisma, you just say, wait, it's impossible. He's going to be the most famous movie star in the world. Impossible. Okay. They go, Frank's going to do good and he's going to help his brother out. Obviously that didn't turn out. And I think what kept me going was it was kind of my saving grace, to have that. It was my saving grace. It was something I could do well. It was something that helped me communicate with other people. Of course, you met the girls and stuff like that, but it wasn't that popular. You have to understand, when I was playing in rock bands, it wasn't like, hey, it's really cool. They thought we were a bunch of freaks, Really? So it wasn't like, all the girls like the jocks, and we were like the furthest thing from that in 1965. You know what I'm saying? We're like 140 pounds, long curly hair. So they thought, hey, guy looks, hey, queers over here. It was like Archie Bunker stuff, Yeah. But I had the love of it. And the thing was, the whole Beatle experience was just so amazing. I mean, the whole thing about the whole Beatle vibe was just, come on. The whole British invasion, it was so amazing to be a part of that, but being in the United States, obviously.
Well, and that influenced you a lot, right?
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, what influenced me was, if you go to the big 3, Sinatra, Elvis, and the Beatles, that's it.
Yeah.
And everything was an offshoot from that. And and also boxing was a big part of that. Because boxing was on TV 2-3 times a week sometimes. You had the Gillette fights, you had the Cavalcada fights, Don Fee rings. So boxing was actually a big part. Not many people, no one watched basketball. That was college. And no one really watched football because that was more college. What was watched was baseball, boxing, and horse racing, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one watched golf. Today it's boring. Can you imagine 1950s golf or tennis? No one watched that stuff.
Well, ironic that you had an amateur boxing career and you end up and then a singing career, and you end up singing in the Rocky movie.
Go figure.
Yeah, it's kind of like I said, ironic.
It's very ironic. I mean, because my brother called me up to ask me to do it. I said, what the hell are you talking about? Write music for boxing? I don't do that. You know, of course, we thought a little bit too much of ourselves in those days. You know how it is when you're like 20-some years old. But it happens. So he made it easy. He goes, yeah, don't you remember you used to stand around the corner and sing a cappella music? Because in those days, that was before the Beatles. So a lot of the groups were the Platters,
doo-wop groups,
Skyliners, doo-wop. Yeah. So he says, why don't you create something like that? I said, okay. And I did, and I forgot about it. And next thing I know, he's in Philadelphia filming this little movie. And who knew? I mean, the only famous person in the movie was Burgess Meredith, and he was known as the Penguin. I mean, you know, in the bad Batman series, even though he's a tremendous actor. So basically, it's a movie all unknowns. And the bizarre thing is when your audience finally, if they do watch the documentary, will find out that before I had my groups, it was always being judged. Hey, man, the group's great. Frank and his guys, bum, bum, bum. Then when Rocky came out, all of a sudden, it was kind of like the perfect storm because we were getting ready to work on our, what would I say, our RCA deal, okay, our RCA record deal. And we kind of almost came out at the same time, us a little after, and that was a disaster. I don't care if you were in the Eagles, nothing could compared with Rocky. It's just, if you had to be there to see what it was just, you know, it was too cool for school. You know, it was one of those things like that. So got swept up in it. And then all of a sudden I'm playing these gigs and I'm on stage. And this is, you have to understand, this is so new to me. I mean, because I was known as Frank Stallone in the group, right? And all of a sudden you see people in the audience go, now I'm starting to read lips. Is that Rocky's brother? And I said, that's what started it all. Yeah. So I became Frank. I was at one time Frank Stallone, and now I'm Rocky's brother. So it was like one of those things. And at first it didn't bother me. Then I started getting resentful just for the fact that it was kind of messing with my band. Sure. Because we were a band, we were all friends, you know what I'm saying? So it was kind of getting in the way of that because they were thinking that I was behind it, which I wasn't. I wasn't behind, you know, pulling myself out front of the band. I had no intention of that. Yeah. But that's how it happened. Then eventually, I mean, it was really kind of sad. We were a really good band. And when Rocky came out, all of a sudden we are on all the big TV shows, Dinah Shore, Mike Douglas, Merv Griffin, rock concerts, you know, all this stuff. Yep. And then as it was good 8 months. And then after Rocky came, those days movies stayed in the theaters a lot longer, months at a time. Yeah. We were done. That was it. We lost our record deal. We were having trouble finding gigs, which is really embarrassing when you're a local group and you've done all these big shows. Yeah. And we were just dropped like a hot potato. And eventually the group broke up. And now here I am, Frank Stallone in New Jersey, no movie, no group, nothing. So now I'm playing. Now you gotta understand, this is being on TV, being big shots back. Now I'm playing for $35 a night at the Ground Round. Oh, wow. By myself. Okay. And I'm seeing people, I'm picking up the vibe. Yeah, what happened to him? Yeah, it's very simple. The movie ended. That's what happened. So, and I said, what am I going to do, man? It was like, now I'm like 29, 28, which in those days was old in rock and roll years. You know, it's different now. Yeah. I said, what am I going to do? I have no education to really speak of. You know, I've been a musician my whole life. I don't really have any other skills than what I do. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? And then my brother finally says, so why don't you just come to California? What are you doing there? There's nothing for you there anymore. I said, well, I guess you're right. And I got in my car and I drove out to California with my manager at that point. And the future was not looking great. So I became a stand-in for my brother in Rocky III. So with that, I fought my brother, I fought Mr. T, and I sang in the movie. So I was basically a singing heavy bag, you know what I mean? So that's kind of what happened with that. And then one thing led to another, and then I found out he was doing the sequel to Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah.
Of course, he didn't tell me. I had to find out fourth hand. And I drove to the studio at Paramount, and I was asking, I said, you think I got a shot in this? Do anything? He goes, absolutely not.
Hey, bro, help me out here.
Yeah, $35 a week, a night, right? So, and he said, so they tried to humor me. Hey, just write some songs. So I did. Of course, as I left the office, I stole the script. So I read through the script and I started writing stuff, and it was almost like a stream of conscious. I was on, man, because I was understanding the character in Saturday Night Fever, Tony Manero, now coming back, who wants to be legit, who wants to be someone.
And he's all shredded and...
Yeah, and that's where the song Far From Over comes from. I am down, but I am far from over. So maybe in my own way, the music was autobiographical. I don't know.
Interesting.
But I felt that, and then all of a sudden, you have to go. You remember, I've been beat up for years and years. I mean, struggling. So by the time Staying Alive came out, I've been in the business almost 20 years with no success, basically, to speak of. Yeah. So when that happened, that was huge, man. I mean, that was huge.
Well, and that was serendipitous, too, in that the Bee Gees were supposed to do the bulk of the contract. Yeah. And you talk about this in the documentary. They backed out for whatever reason.
Well, they didn't really want to do it anyway. But Robert Stigwood was the producer of the movie and also their manager. So they didn't really want to do it because they'd done it already. I mean, you're not going to top Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah.
So then I came in. There was someone didn't like their music. They got insulted. They walked off. And then, then they asked for Billy Joel. He didn't want to do it. Hall & Oates didn't want to do it. And then, came to me.
Yeah.
But I think it's like being prepared at the time of opportunity is what I was. I was prepared. I had all these songs. I'd done the demos and stuff like this. So I was prepared to rock and roll, and thank the Lord it happened.
It's a fantastic soundtrack, and although it didn't get any Grammys or wasn't recognized on a high level, was it?
Well, I was nominated for a Grammy and a Golden Globe. I got screwed out of my nomination for the Academy Award by a really bad song by Barbra Streisand. And I like Barbra Streisand, but she missed it on this one, Jack. And that's kind of what happened. But, all in all, man, it was a blessing. I mean, there's no getting around it. And, I remember I asked my brother not too long ago, I said, what would have happened, say, if you never would have done Rocky? Say if you would have sold it and Burt Reynolds played Rocky. He goes, well, everything would have been different. He goes, I don't know what would have happened. Maybe I've just been a kind of struggling character actor. He goes, what about you? I said, I'd just be doing what I'm doing. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we had a deal with RCA before Rocky. I don't know. But I mean, I know that's what I'd be doing. How successful I was, I don't know. So it's serendipity to think about that, because we don't know. I mean, it's hard to say, well, if it wasn't for Rocky, I mean, I get that all the time. Well, because my brother, no, we didn't. I wrote the songs. No one wrote the songs. I wrote the songs.
Yeah, right.
And if you'd understand Hollywood, they are not that generous. Just because your brother's the star, they're not going to put a lousy song in their movie.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the talent has to stand alone.
Well, sure, but it had to go through a lot of approval. You got the director, then you've got Travolta, who was a producer. Then you have the producers, then you have the studio. Yeah. So it's not like all of a sudden one person goes, okay, it's in. it's not like you're dating some bimbo that's good looking. All right, just put her in a movie, let her walk across the screen. Yeah. It's not like that. This is an integral part of the movie. Music.
Well, and then it's hard to imagine a world without Rocky, especially growing up. I think I was 11 years old when it came out.
Yeah.
And I was one of those kids that stood in line at the theater day after day after day,
Yeah. Yeah. It was magical. And here's a funny story. I was in New York with my brother. There's a picture in the movie. It was the last moment of anonymity. This is before Rocky came out. We're standing
in the documentary,
in front of the theater, where he used to be an usher, by the way, on 3rd Avenue and 60th.
Yeah, wow.
So we go there that afternoon they're having an early screening. Same movie, going to be shown that night to premiere, right?
Yeah.
And we're sitting there watching it, same movie. And all of a sudden, people were just like starting to walk out. And I'm looking at my brother, and he's got this like frozen, like kind of terrified look on his face.
Yeah.
And I'm saying something's wrong because this movie is very great. And actually, a guy I invited that was like a yoga instructor that was going like this, he walked out. I wanted to give him a beating right there, smack him. So all of a sudden, and he's like really bummed out, come on.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's switch 6 hours later. It premieres on that same theater that same day.
Uh-huh.
You could hear cheers out on the street from inside the theater.
Oh, amazing.
Hello? And I know you saw it too when you early saw it. People were standing up and cheering in the audience.
Back then, they did. They stood up and they applauded.
It's
People don't do that in theater anymore. They applauded it.
Well, there's really nothing to applaud, is there? But it was a special movie. And I would challenge anybody, not even me, anybody. That's a tough act to follow, man.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
I am just like poor, guy living in an $85 a month apartment, and all of a sudden, so I did the best I could. I did what I always did, played my music. I didn't, sell out. I probably did some things I'm not happy about musically and things like that.
Yeah.
Probably like it. But if people see the documentary, they'll see it's a progression.
Right.
All of a sudden you get a big success, but you don't have any backing. It's like a fighter. You can be a great fighter, but if you don't have a good promoter or a good manager, doesn't matter.
That's true. You don't get those
Look
shots.
at Terrence Crawford, best fighter in the world. He's not fighting.
I know.
Aram's
He's 3 hours from us. And
Yeah, but Aram, no one's letting him fight.
Yeah, I know. It's terrible.
This guy should be
waste.
fighting Errol Spence. He should be fighting Pacquiao. And that's got to be frustrating for him. He's a good fighter, man.
I think he beats them all.
Yeah, he beats Spence. I think Manny beats Spence, to tell you the truth.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, because
they're working on that one.
They're working on it. Spence isn't the fighter he was. I mean, he looked really good against what's his name, but that ain't Manny. Manny's a whole different. He hits like a middleweight. It's hard to time. You don't
punches from every angle.
Punches from every angle. He's fast, and he hits hard, man. He really does hit hard. So, but I would like to see those fights. But also, getting back to boxing, like Canelo, good fighter. I think Benavidez knocks him out. I think he stops him.
Really?
I think Benavidez too big, hits too hard.
Yeah.
Strong.
Yeah.
No, he was like 280 pounds at one time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he was
again a good fight that should happen. They should make that happen.
But he is a good fight. He's got to fight either one of the Charlo brothers. You can't, and I'm not taking anything away from him, but he's not my favorite fighter, but I think he's a tough guy. He's got a good chin, and he's fighting who they're putting in front of him, but he's got to fight someone where there's a little bit of maybe he could lose. You got to have that.
Yeah. That doesn't exist right now. He's walking through everybody.
Like Teofimo Lopez. I like him. He's a nice guy. Okay. We're friends on Instagram. But he's got to fight Lomachenko again because there's still an asterisk with that. Because that fight was close.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though Lomachenko, I have no idea what he's thinking, why he gave away 5 rounds.
Yeah.
But if you see the second part of the fight, he's getting to him. He's banging him around a little bit in the corner. And there's one thing I saw that Teofimo did, and I hope he's worked on it, and I hope his corner's aware of it, is that he was when Lomachenko was going to his body, he did the no, stood up and kind of leaned back.
Uh-huh.
You do that with a guy like Ryan Garcia with that left hook, he'll rip your head off.
Yeah,
or you
he'll
do that
clean the
again
cock.
with what's his name? Oh, Devontae, the tank.
Gervonta Davis.
Yeah. Now I think he can be beat personally.
Oh, I do too.
I think he has. What's the fighter's name from Cincinnati? That's always getting fat. Oh, you know who he is.
Oh, Adrian Broner?
Yeah, he has Adrian Broner syndrome. He has a tendency to get thrown weight. And I don't know how good his eating habits or living habits are outside the ring, which is monumental as far as your success goes.
It catches up with you. All that fluctuating in weight.
Yeah. Well, they're saying about, what do you call it? Garcia needs to take a break. From what? You haven't fought in 6 months. Where are you taking a break from? You should be fighting.
Issues. He said he had mental health issues of some sort.
You're 23 years old. What kind of health issues do you have? See, this is the thing when we talk about toughness, like we talk about Floyd Mayweather trying to fight a Duran. And I like Floyd, don't get me wrong. But Duran walks right through him because he can't hurt Duran. Never could. He's not going to hurt Hearns. He's not going to hurt Leonard. It's not. You fight a guy like Carmen Basilio, he'll just walk through you like nothing, that bounce off him. Yeah. But Ryan Garcia's got to fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What when these guys used to fight 30 times a year, they had problems too.
Yeah. Ray Robinsons of the world fought sometimes twice a month, at least every month. That was part of their training, was the fighting.
Well, that's why he's considered one of the greatest fighters that ever lived, because they knew their trade well. Mm-hmm. That's what they did for a living. To me, two of the greatest fighters, and it's without a doubt, was Harry Greb and Sugar Ray Robinson.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
You don't find guys 45 fights in 1 year, undefeated. Harry Greb.
Yeah.
He's knocking out heavyweights. He beat every heavyweight that Dempsey fought.
Yeah.
Beat Gene Tunney, beat Bill Brennan, beat all those guys. He's 5'8".
Yeah.
They go, well, how tough is he? He goes, how tough is he? Well, Gene Tunney lost one fight. Okay. And that was Harry Greb.
Yeah.
When you think of a fighter of Willie Pep, it was an airplane crash that you never walk again. Went on, had 100 and some more fights.
Yeah. Incredible.
So Bob Carson had a favorite fighter. He always had these fighters that were kind of deviates that he liked, that were kind of weird, like Chuck Wiggins from Indianapolis, who even Tunney and Greb said, this son of a bitch was the toughest, dirtiest fighter I ever fought. And he was a drunk.
Oh, really?
I mean, he was a cop fighter. He was drunk, but he fought everybody from Indianapolis. And he used to fight cops all the time. So one day they found him at the bottom of a stairwell with his skull cracked open. The police said, wow, he was drinking. He fell.
Oh, geez.
There's a few different stories on that one. But he was tough, man. There was some, Kansas, man, Jess Willard.
Yeah.
They go, well, how tough?
Giant.
He's 6'6", 255 pounds.
Yeah.
And Jack Dillon wanted to fight him. Jack Dillon's 5'7", light heavyweight champion. He goes, aren't you afraid, Jack? He goes, nah, there's more of him to hit. That was the mentality. When you think about Mickey Walker's 5'6.5", basically beat Jack Sharkey. He got ripped off. So Jack Sharkey, heavyweight champion, is 5 foot. He fought Max Schmeling. He's 5'6.5". Mm-hmm. You don't have Henry Armstrongs around anymore.
Yeah.
Henry Armstrong will walk through these guys, just rip them apart.
Yeah.
When you think about an amazing career, he wins the featherweight title from Petey Sarin. Then he goes up to the welterweight championship, beats Barney Ross. Then he comes down to the lightweight championship and beats Lou Ambers. And then he fights Seferino Garcia for the middleweight championship, which 98% of people thought he won.
Yeah.
So in 8 divisions, he would have held 4 titles at once. And he's 5'3.5". So
amazing.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's hard to when these guys go, well, how would he do these guys? I said, well, let me ask you, how is a Floyd Mayweather, again, not taking anything away from him, with 50 fights, going to fight Fritzy Zivic, who has 301 fights, who was a welterweight who also beat Jake LaMotta? What are you going to show him? What, you're going to show him something he hasn't seen? 300 and some pro fights.
Yeah.
So, and the toughness that people don't understand, you wouldn't last 300 fights if you couldn't box. You'd be brain dead. You would never make 50 fights. They could fight though. And I get in things, there's like middleweights, no one even knows that were champions. That would beat any middleweight now. Freddie Steele, Fred Apostoli, Al Hostak, Solly Krieger. These guys were killers.
Yeah.
Tough, man. Freddie, Al Hostak was the hardest puncher they ever saw as a middleweight. But there were so many fighters around.
Yeah.
That's why it kind of moved like that. And Harry Greb would have beaten every one of them. So
yeah,
put it in perspective.
Yeah, those times are over for sure. But
it's over because you can't accomplish that fighting once a year. You can't.
Yeah.
These guys used to fight, like, again, 15, 20, 25 times a year.
Yeah.
The most amazing thing is Battling Levinsky, who was the light heavyweight champ from Philly, fought 3 main events in 3 different cities on one day on New Year's Eve. How's that possible?
Yeah.
Fought in New York. They said, put a scarf on, overcoat, got on the train, fought in Connecticut, 10-rounder.
Crazy.
And then he fought like in Brooklyn. So he fought 32 rounds in one day and won.
That's crazy.
Yeah, one day. So that means after a 12-round fight, you don't have time to get changed. You're on a train. Yeah. I mean, no one could do that. But
you're barely cooled down.
Yeah, like in my museum, I have Ad Walgas gloves from the Battling Nelson fight, scheduled 45-round fight.
Yeah.
45 rounds. Think about it. People go, well, you think today's fighters? I said, you couldn't do 45 rounds of punch mitts. Try it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of a guy coming after you like this with punch mitts, try 45 rounds.
Yeah, hard to imagine.
Yeah, and they fought it outside. It was raining. It was cold. No mouth guards. 1910, February in Northern California. But they're Cro-Magnon. They're like the round. And I know that you can tell the rounds because you can see the film. It's silent. With a guy had a big cigar in his mouth walking around with round 27.
Yeah.
And these guys are running out of the corner.
Yeah.
Round 36. They're running out. They're not like they're just going, man. So, and then, I was reading a interview of Battling Nelson of the fight. Well, they go back. How do you think you're doing that fight with the Walgas? He goes, I'll get him after 30. Guys can barely go 12. I'll get him after 30.
Oh my gosh.
But see, he used to like those fights. They called finish fights. He liked 45 rounds, 60 rounds, because in his book, he had the heartbeat of someone that was dead. So he didn't even get warmed up. Like they said, Henry Armstrong would shadowbox like 15 rounds in the dressing room because his heartbeat was so slow. That's why he never stopped punching. That if he didn't, the fight would be over. He wouldn't have been warmed up yet.
Wow.
He had a very slow heartbeat, So
I'd heard somewhere too that they had studied and his skull was thicker than the normal human.
Yeah, his skull. Yeah, everything about him was an anomaly. He was like kind of, and he's from like Denmark. You wouldn't think like the Danish are tough, but he was tough. And another Danish fighter that was a killer too was Kid Williams.
Yeah,
it fought a little after him. But these guys were just rough and tumble, man. I mean, can you imagine what their hands would have been like?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I have an interview with Gunboat Smith, who was like, they called the white heavyweight champion at the time, but he was tough. He was 170 pounds and he beat Jess Willard. And Jess Willard, he ripped his ear off almost.
Oh, wow.
And he goes, in those days, he goes, I don't understand how these guys can spar with 10-ounce gloves. Spar with 10-ounce gloves. They use 4.5-ounce gloves. Okay.
Yeah.
And he said, we used to load them all the time, but that was legal.
No.
They didn't use plaster. What they would do, if you see the old pictures, sometimes you see black. It was a black electrical tape.
Mm-hmm.
And they would go back and forth and build up a thing. Joe Burrell told me this. And they go to edge of a table in between the knuckles. So it's like brass knuckles. Then they'd skin it back and bang. So they were pretty brutal guys, man.
Yeah. This has been awesome. I love your love of the history of boxing. And, again, I watched the documentary. It's an amazing story, inspirational. And I think it sends a good message to people about perseverance, because all you persevered through and, to just no matter what, whether you're in the music industry or business or the boxing world, you just keep punching, right?
Yeah, you got to give Floyd Mayweather a lot of credit. He didn't come with the silver spoon in his mouth. I mean, he persevered. And one thing I will say about him, and again, I'm not the biggest Floyd fan, but one thing I'll say about him, he did the sport honorably. He always came in shape, right? He came in shape to fight. Yep. And people go, how about McGregor? I said, let's be realistic. He would knock McGregor out the first round if he wanted to.
If he wanted to,
It was about money. What do you think? McGregor, he would kill McGregor. And it's like Manny wants to fight McGregor. Manny will put him in the hospital if he wants to. Yeah. They're saying, well, listen, you got to carry. Okay, so they said to Floyd, listen, Floyd knows the guy's going to run out of gas in 10 rounds. So he just, Floyd would have killed him if he wanted to. Wow.
He played.
Of course he played. Yeah. The whole thing was a play. Like the press conferences were funny as hell.
Yeah. Entertaining. It was entertainment. That's all it was.
They made $150 million each. Yeah. Floyd even made more. That's, you know what? You'll play the game for that.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
But listen, man, for all my fans out there, if they're listening, go see Stallone, Frank, that is, on Prime, Amazon. And of course, I am on Instagram at frank.stallone. And we'd love to hear from everybody.
Awesome. Everybody will go out there. Keep track of what Frank Stallone's up to. I know something else is always in the works, so you always got something going on. Thank you for watching this episode of Title Unboxed. If you're anything like me, you can never get too much boxing. So if you'd like to watch more episodes, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and our Title Boxing YouTube page.